this very interesting how well a speaker's area matches with what we do at Google, right? You know, the Google motto, which is organizing all of the world's information, making it universally accessible and useful. And that can be done by computers, but it also has to have a lot of people like Arvind who can make a big difference. One of the biggest reasons why we have a big divide in many parts of the world is because of asymmetry of information. So until that problem gets solved, we're going to continue to have the haves and the have-nots. Today it's an information age, and the power comes from the information that you can own. However, we see that people who have information and want to keep information typically abuse that information as well, right? So they abuse various things, and the citizenry doesn't get to see what is being done, and the rights are not equally shared in the democratic environment. So a single person can make such a big difference. It's sort of hard to believe. Mr. Arvind, has a very spectacular education background. He's a graduate from the IIT, and in 2000 he decided to work with Parivartan, and he's been striving endlessly to put an organization together which will make the government organizations open up and have all of us citizens have access to that information. And I think that's been a spectacular success. He's been awarded the Magsaysay Award in 2006, and we are very, very honored to have him here at Google. So let me turn it over to Mr. Arvind.
Good afternoon, friends. It's a pleasure to be here, and I was looking forward to it. I'll be talking about right to information. I don't know how many of you have heard about right to information. Almost everyone. And how many have used right to information? You've used right to information. Interesting. So you have also used right to information. Interesting. Basically, we'll start with why right to information. Where does it come from? Why should we have right to information? And that is because every citizen in this country pays a tax. Even a beggar on the street pays a tax. Because when a beggar goes to the market and buys a piece of soap, he pays sales tax, he pays excise duty, he pays so many other taxes. So this entire taxes collected by the government from poorest of the poor, including from the people poorest of the poor, this money belongs to us. It does not belong to any bureaucrat. It does not belong to any politician. This entire money belongs to us. We are the masters, and the government servants exist to serve us. But in the last 50 years, the entire equation has changed. We keep on pleading before the government, and the government servants and the politicians have become, practically they have become our masters. You would agree that it is the duty of every master to take hisab, to take accounts from his servant from time to time. But we, the masters of this country, never took any accounts from our servants in the last 55 years. Not because we didn't want to take hisab. We always want to take accounts of every penny that we pay as taxes. But imagine if you go to a government office and you say that you are the master and that officer is a servant, and now you show me all the records, he will throw you out of his office. So far there were no administrative institution arrangements available using which we could demand accounts from the government. But now we have a Right to Information Act which gives right to every citizen to question the government and to obtain any government documents. Supreme Court, as early as in 1976, for the first time said that right to information is a part of our fundamental rights. Where does this right to information come from? It comes from this judgment of Supreme Court which was passed in 1976, and Supreme Court said that right to information is a part of our fundamental rights. Now all of us have read fundamental rights. Did we see right to information written there? It's not written there. So how is it a part of fundamental rights? Supreme Court said that freedom of speech and expression is a fundamental right, and a person cannot speak and express himself unless he knows. And therefore right to know or right to information is embedded in freedom of speech and expression. And in the same judgment, Supreme Court laid down two more principles. Number one, we live in a democracy. In a democracy, the people are the masters. The master has a right to know how the servant is functioning. These were the words used by Supreme Court. And in the same judgment, Supreme Court said, because people pay taxes, this money belongs to them. Therefore, people have a right to know how their money is being utilized. Now, all of you know that the Right to Information Act was passed by Government of India in 2005. If Supreme Court has already said that right to information is a part of our fundamental rights, then why do we need a law? Why was this law passed by the government? We need a law because imagine again that if you go to a government department and you say that right to information is your fundamental right, and now you show me all your records, those people are not going to show the records. So we needed a procedure to be put in place, we needed systems to be put in place, machinery to be put in place, using which we could exercise our fundamental right to information. So Right to Information Act, which was passed by the Parliament in 2005, does not give us a new right. The right was already there in the Constitution. Right to Information Act only lays down the procedures using which we can exercise a fundamental right to information. How did this law come? This law is the result of a long struggle waged by the poorest people in this country. And this struggle started in Rajasthan. It was started, some people already know the organization, the struggle was started by Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan in Rajasthan under the leadership of Mrs. Aruna Roy. Aruna Roy used to be an IAS officer, 67 batch. She quit IAS and she went to Rajasthan and started living like villagers in the villages of Rajasthan. All of you know that there is a law called Minimum Wage Act, and Minimum Wage Act says that you have to pay a prescribed minimum wage at the end of the day to any labor. In those days, in 1990, the minimum wage used to be 22 rupees a day in Rajasthan. But at the end of the day, the labor used to get paid only 11 rupees a day. Under her leadership, under Mrs. Roy's leadership, the people started demanding full wages. They said, give us 22 rupees. And when they started demanding full wages, the government officers turned around and said that you guys are lazy, you didn't do your job properly, and you deserve only this much. So these people said, if we are lazy and if you are giving us only 11 rupees, then you show us the muster rolls, how much have you entered in the muster rolls. Because if you are giving us 11 rupees, you must have entered 11 rupees in the muster rolls. So the people said, the government officers said, we can't show you muster rolls are secret. So these people said, how can our own muster rolls be secret, which contain the details of our wages, they contain the details of our labor, our thumb impressions, our payments. How can these muster rolls be secret from us? So it is this small demand for inspection of muster rolls in 1990 in Rajasthan, which slowly snowballed into a full-fledged right to information movement across the country. Anna Hazare from Maharashtra, many people from different parts of the country joined in. And finally, the Parliament of India had to pass Right to Information Act in 2005. This law, there are more than 70 countries in the world who have a Right to Information Act. And Indian law is perhaps the best law in the world. This law was not drafted by the bureaucracy, it was drafted by civil society, it was handed over to the government, and because of the politics of at that point of time, the law was accepted by the government and it was passed by the Parliament. What does this law say? This law basically gives you 5 rights. Number 1, you can ask for any information from the government. Number 2, you can ask for inspection of any government files or any government documents. Number 3, you can ask for photocopies of any government documents. Number 4, you can ask for inspection of any government work. Now, let me tell you, the definition of right to information is very wide in the Indian law. So, right to information includes inspection of any government work. Now, the word government work is not defined anywhere. It entirely depends on your creativity, how you define it. So, many people have used it in many interesting ways. For instance, if there is a road being constructed in your area, you can say that this is a government work, I would like to come and inspect this work, and the government will have to send an officer to get the inspection done along with the documents. Similarly, all of you know that in government schools, the teachers don't come, and even if they come, they leave early. And even if they come, they are either gossiping under a tree, they don't teach the students. So there is this girl called Rekha, she lives in a slum in East Delhi. Her brother studies in a government school, and she was also troubled because the teachers never used to teach properly. So she filed an RT application that I want to come and inspect the work of the teachers. She interpreted government work in this manner. She said, I want to come and inspect the work of the teachers. So she was asked to come at 11 o'clock on a particular day for inspection. Now that school, the timings were from 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning up to 4 o'clock. And the teachers used to come in the morning, but they used to leave by 12:30, 1 o'clock. So she said, I will come at 3:45 and inspect their work. So she went at 3:45 on that particular day. The headmaster of the school took her around the school in every class, and on that particular day, every teacher was present in his class and they were teaching. So single girl living in a slum files an RT application and is able to force the teachers to be present in their class at least for a day. Earlier, the letters or applications or complaints from such ordinary people were thrown in the dustbin and they were never even entertained. Similarly, there is another case where an RTI application was filed by a poor person in Food and Supply Officer's office. And this person said that I would like to come and inspect the work of a Food and Supply Officer. So then the officer wrote back that, okay, you can come on this particular day. He went for inspection. And when he went for inspection, FSO said that, look, these are the files, this is my office, you can inspect my work. He said, no. FSO's work is to ensure that everyone in the area gets rations properly. So come with me, we will go to the area and we'll ask people whether they're getting rations properly and whether you're doing your work properly or not. So he sent an inspector and they went to about 20 houses asking everyone, are you getting rations, are you getting rations, are you getting rations? And they recorded and people said they were not getting rations. So they made a joint statement. This was signed by that person, it was signed by the inspector, and on the basis of that, about 3 or 4 shops were cancelled in that particular area. So this is the manner in which people have interpreted government work. So as I said, this right to information gives you 5 rights. You can ask for any information, you can inspect any government documents, you can ask for photocopies of any government documents, you can ask for inspection of any government work, and 5th is you can ask for sample of material used in any government construction. So for instance, there is a road made in your area, you can say that I would like to take sample of material used in the construction of this road, and they will have to give you a certified sample of material. This law says that in every office, there would be a public information officer. If you want any information on a plain piece of paper, you write an application to that officer, 10 rupees fees, and he is supposed to reply in 30 days time. If he doesn't reply in 30 days time, his salary is liable to be deducted at the rate of 250 rupees per day of delay, up to a maximum of 25,000 rupees per application. If he provides you false information, misleading information, incomplete information, his salary could be deducted up to a maximum of 25,000 rupees per application. Now this is the only law passed by Parliament of India post-independence which places a direct relationship between the performance of an officer and his salary. There is no other law in our country which directly places a relationship between his performance and his salary, and that is the reason why this law seems to be functioning and no other law has worked. This is called penalty clause, and this is the heart and soul of this Right to Information Act. You remove this penalty, it's section 20. You remove section 20 from Right to Information Act, it will not work. They are scared of this particular clause. And if you don't get information in 30 days time, or if you get information which you are not satisfied with, then there are different appellate steps. Every state has Information Commission, and center also has Central Information Commission. You could go to the Information Commission and make a complaint. So these are the broad parameters of Right to Information Act. Now, if we just say, we'll come to the questions after the talk. You can, if you don't mind, you can just jot down. Okay. If we just say that Right to Information Act has come and the government has become transparent, it doesn't make sense. The real test of any law lies in how does it impact the life of a common man? Does it simplify the life of a common man? So I'll give you a couple of examples to show how this is a great tool in the hands of ordinary people, how it has empowered ordinary people. First of all, I would like to know how many of you have paid bribes so far. My God, there's a lot of people here. And there would be many more people who have faced demands for bribe. I mean, there will be many more people who faced demands for bribe, but they resisted it. For the first time, Right to Information gives us an option not to pay bribes and not to suffer harassment. If you have any legitimate work pending in any government department and they are not doing it either for expectation of bribe or they are not doing it because it's simple bureaucratic lethargy, now you don't need to pay bribes in India. Use RTI, it is more effective than bribery. I'll give you the example of a person called Nannu. Nannu is a daily wage laborer. He had a ration card. He lost his ration card. He applied for a duplicate ration card in January 2004. According to the rules, you should get your duplicate ration card in 10 days time. But he kept on running around for 3 months, they didn't give his card. And he is a very poor person. Many times when he would go to the department, they would not even allow him to enter the department because he has a very shabby appearance. 3 months later, he made a Right to Information application, submitted that application, and within 4 days of his submitting the application, the inspector came to his house and said that, Nannuji, your card is ready, why don't you come and collect it? When Nannu went to collect his card, the Food and Supply Officer, who is the head of a district. He escorted Nannu to his room, offered him tea, gave him his card and said, "This is your card, please take back your application under Right to Information Act." The same Nannu, who was a persona non grata in the eyes of these officers, suddenly becomes a VIP. What did Nannu ask? Nannu asked 4 questions, and these are magical questions. Number 1, I made an application for my duplicate ration card on such and such date. Please give me the daily progress made on my application so far. That is, on which date my application went to which officer, how many days did he sit on that application, and what did he do during that period. Number 2, please give me the names and designations of the officials who were supposed to take action and who have not done so. Number 3, according to the rules, I should have got my card in 10 days' time. These officers have violated the rules. What action will be taken against them and by when? And number 4, by when will you give my card now? Now, in ordinary circumstances, such an application is thrown in the dustbin. But this law for the first time says that they have to reply in 30 days' time, otherwise their salary is liable to be deducted at the rate of 250 rupees. So they have to reply. They can't get away with it. It's not easy to answer these questions. The first question is, please tell me the daily progress made on my application so far. There is no progress made. But they can't write it in that many words because otherwise it becomes admission of guilt on paper. Number 2, please give me the names and designations of officials who are supposed to take action. The moment they write the names and designations of officials, the responsibility gets fixed. And no officer wants his name to appear like that on paper. So the moment you file these 4 questions, immediately you would see that the officer ends up doing your job. If it had been only Nannu, we would have thought this was an exception. There are not 1 or 10 or 100, but there are thousands of people across the country who have used RTI and who are saying no to bribery and getting their work done. About 2 years back, there was a person called Prem Sharma. He applied for a passport. They refused to give him a passport. According to the rules, you should get your passport in 45 days' time. For 6 months, he kept running around. They didn't give his passport. 6 months later, he took a similar right to information application to the passport officer. The passport officer read that application and said that this is my mobile number, this is my son's mobile number. If you don't get the passport delivered in your house in 10 days' time, please give me a call, but please don't file this RTI application. That is the kind of power that this law gives in the hands of very ordinary people. And there are thousands and thousands of such examples where people are using RTI. We did a campaign called Drive Against Bribes campaign in July 2006, where a call was given to the nation that now you don't need to pay bribes in India, use RTI, it is more effective than bribery. And in those 15 days, 1st July to 15th July 2006, there were about 700 organizations who participated, and in 55 cities, about 1,500 volunteers set up help desks to help people in filing RTI applications. About 22,000 people filed RTI applications asking for their income tax refunds, their passports, their various other things in different departments. And there are large number of success stories which poured in from different cities. And I'll just share some of the things that, for instance, in Delhi, in those 15 days, our volunteers set up a table and chair outside the office of one of the SDMs, SDM Nandanagri. So in SDM's office, I don't know whether you know that there are 17 types of certificates that an SDM is supposed to issue: marriage certificate, birth certificate, death certificate, old age, income certificate, caste certificate. There are 17 types, and you can't get any certificate without paying bribes. So, and these certificates, most of these certificates are taken by very poor people. So most of the poor people have interaction with an SDM's office. So these people, our volunteers, set up a table and chair outside the office of SDM, and in that office, people were facing a lot of problems. As soon as they set up the help desk, within 2 hours, the SDM called them inside and said that, look, we made a mistake. Somehow this bunch of certificates was lying in that corner, we forgot about it, and now we have decided to distribute it. So please don't force people to file these RTI applications. And suddenly, tons of certificates tumbled out of their almirah. Similarly, we set up our volunteers outside a food and supply officer's office, and tons of ration cards came tumbling out of their almirah. So there were a large number of success stories which poured in during that period. So one request that I have today is that when you go out of this hall today, please take this message with you. That now, if you have any legitimate work pending in any government department, you don't need to pay bribes in India. Use RTI, it is more effective than bribery. So please spread this message, please start using it, spread this message to your friends, colleagues, on your Yahoo groups, Google groups, all kinds of groups, and please let the people know that they should use RTI. And there is a website called www.righttoinformation.org, which actually helps you in drafting your application and tells you where to file and how to file. Second example I wish to share with you is how you can use RTI to keep a check on community works. This is the story of a software engineer called Uday. Uday lives in Vasant Kunj in South Delhi, and he works in HCL Noida, and every day he takes the road, outer ring road outside IIT Delhi. And in February last year, Uday saw that the stretch between IIT flyover and Panchsheel flyover was constructed, and it came off within 10 days time. And this is what happens to most of our roads. The roads are constructed and within a month they come off. Uday is a young guy, he wanted to do something about it. He filed an RTI application asking 3 questions. I want to come and inspect all the files related to the construction of this road. Number 2, I want to come and inspect this road. As I said that you can also inspect any government work. And number 3, I want to take sample of material used in the construction of this road. As soon as he filed the application, he started getting phone calls from the junior engineer that please take back your application. He didn't do that. He was given a date and time to come for inspection. And when he went for inspection, the executive engineer told him that just 2 days before he came for inspection, they have repaired the entire road. Now why don't you go and take a look at the road? Why do you want to see all these files? Now there was a very interesting lesson that we learned out of this example, that the repairs could be done only because the payment had not been made to the contractor so far. So if you make any intervention in any ongoing work, what we have seen is that immediately they end up repairing that work, or they end up rectifying the mistakes that exist in that work. The entire corruption takes place in the files, and the officers know very well that the corruption would remain hidden in these files. At best, someone from audit or vigilance or inspection would come at the end of the year, he would take his share and he would go back. But if any citizen files an RTI application, the officer does not know who you are. He does not know whether you are an engineer or you are literate, you are illiterate. There is a fear of unknown. The information is now going out in public domain. He does not know what you will do with that information. Whether you want to give it to CBI, you will give it to the media, you will go to the court, you will give it to police. He doesn't know what you will do with the information. So as soon as you file an RTI application, what we see is that many things start falling in place. They make 100 meters of road, but they make payment for 400 meters. As soon as if you see any government work taking place anywhere, just file an RTI application, it costs you 10 rupees. And you would see as just file an application that as soon as this work gets over, please call me. I would like to come and inspect the files and inspect this work. Believe me, the officer will think twice before making wrong entries in his books. And if you also ask for sample of material, he will think twice before using substandard material. You take that material, come back and throw it in the dustbin. But he doesn't know what you will do with that material. And you will see when you go for inspection, you will see that many of these things are proper. Not because that officer was correct, was honest, but because your right to information application made a difference. Maybe Swati can share the experiences of some of the IIT engineers. I mean, you're working with those IIT engineers, IIT students. And some of the roads were inspected by IIT students in IIT Delhi. And they used to go to the PWD's website. PWD's website normally gives you a list of all the works that they plan to do in the coming months. So they used to go to the PWD's website, randomly pick up a few roads and file an application that when this road gets completed, please call us, we will come for inspection. And I think when you went for inspection of 2 or 3 roads, they found that it was perfect. There was no measurement mistake, and there was, of course, you didn't take sample of material, but the measurements at least were perfect. So maybe you can share some of those examples. So this is the second example I wanted to share with you, that using Right to Information Act, how you can keep a check on your community works. Third example I want to share with you is, this is, for instance, Uday made a difference, Prem Sharma made a difference, Nannu got his card, but this does not mean that you can only get your day-to-day work. Using Right to Information, you can actually make a difference at the highest levels of policy making. And this is the story of a water privatization project. Delhi government wanted to privatize Delhi's water supplies, and it was a World Bank funded project. It was going on in complete secrecy since 1998. In 2004, for the first time, Asian Age carried a story that Delhi government was planning to hand over the water supply to certain multinational companies. Now, there was a huge reaction from certain NGOs who said that water is a human right, it cannot be privatized, etc., etc. We at Parivartan did not know what water privatization is and what water sector is. But we wanted to find out as concerned citizens that what this whole project was about. So we filed RTA application saying that we want to take photocopies of all the files related to this project. Initially the government said there was no such project. When we went in appeal, the government admitted that there was a project. Then after 6 months of struggle, we were handed over 9,000 pages of information. We studied this information and what we found that it was a completely bizarre project. If it had been implemented, the entire water sector in Delhi would have been ruined. And this was not just our finding. We sent all these documents to IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Bangalore. 35 professors from IIM Bangalore and 15 professors from IIM Ahmedabad wrote to the Prime Minister that withdraw this project. We sent all these documents to the alumni associations of IIT Kharagpur and IIT Delhi. Both as associations held press conferences in Delhi and said that this was a bad project, withdraw this project. And when we shared all this information with the public in Delhi, and finally the government had to withdraw this project and they also withdrew their own application to the World Bank. Now I just wanted to share this example to show that this is the kind of power that right information gives in the hands of ordinary people. A few years back we could not have even imagined laying our hands on such critical documents. I wish there was right to information when Enron took place. Maybe Enron may not have taken place. So this is the kind of power right to information gives. The last example I wish to share with you is of a very close friend called Shailesh Gandhi. Shailesh is an IIT engineer from IIT Bombay. He did his chemical engineering in 1967. He lives in Mumbai and he has a huge business. He employs about 300 people. So you could imagine that how busy a person he would be. But he has made one promise to himself. That is, he would spend 1 hour every day on right to information. So he gets up in the morning, reads the newspaper, whatever wrong things he comes across, he takes paper cuttings. During the day, he goes around in the society, whatever wrongdoings he finds, he makes a list of all this. In the evening, he comes back, sits on his computer and starts drafting his RTA applications. Next day in the morning, he couriers all these applications. And in the last few years, he has filed more than 250 RTA applications. And some of the examples I want to share with you is that this man alone has made such earth-shaking difference. For instance, all of you know that in police, there is so much of political intervention in transfers and postings. So he filed an RTA application about 2 years back in Mumbai Police, saying that please give me the photocopies of the letters of recommendations written by politicians to influence the transfer postings of various police officers. So when this application was filed, the police department did not know how to handle his application. So first they rejected his application, he went in appeal he won, and finally he was given photocopies of about 200 such letters of recommendations written by various politicians. Now it is violation of your conduct rules as a government servant if you do any if you try to influence your transfer posting through politicians. So he sent a letter to the police commissioner of Mumbai that what action are you planning to take against his officers because they have brought about political interference. Police commissioner had to issue a circular, very strict circular to all the officers that henceforth if any officer tries to bring such kind of political influence, he would not be spared. 1 year later, Shailesh wanted to see whether there was any difference. So he repeated that application. That in the last 1 year, please tell me how many letters of recommendations were there. And this time he got copies of 10 letters. So the number came down from 200 to 10, which is not a small achievement. A single person filing RTA applications. I am not saying that now Sifarish is not taking place. Sifarish must be taking place on phone now. Earlier it was taking place threatened. But at least that brazenness has gone. Second example I want to share what he did was, one day he read in the newspaper that one minor girl was raped by a policeman. And he doesn't know the policeman, he doesn't know the girl. He just saw that story. And after a few days when he saw that no action was being taken, he started filing RTA applications on that particular issue. And he filed so many RTA applications and he tried to hold the police department accountable that within 1 year's time, he was able to get that policeman dismissed from his service, just by filing several RTA applications. The third example I want to share with you is that recently what he did was with the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. All of us know that the Chief Ministers have a relief fund and the Prime Minister has a relief fund. And whenever there is a calamity, national calamity, the appeals are made by the government to contribute generously to these funds. And many people come forward. Many people donate 1 day's salary, 2 days' salary. Many companies deduct the salaries and they donate generously to these funds. I don't know whether you bothered to find out what happens to this money. So Shailesh filed RT application both in Chief Minister's office and Prime Minister's office saying that please tell me how much money was collected and how was it utilized in the last few years. First they rejected his application saying that Chief Minister's Relief Fund was a private trust. It is not covered under Right to Information Act. I mean, they have the audacity to say that this is a private trust. Prime Minister's office also said that Prime Minister's Relief Fund is a private trust and we will not disclose this information. So he went in appeal. At appellate stage he won. Orders were passed that these are not private trusts. They have to give information. And when the information came out, the information has come out only from Maharashtra Chief Minister's Relief Fund so far, and the information is shocking. Because the Maharashtra Chief Minister has been doling out this money for various ghazal concerts and various film stars concerts and etc. 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 And the money is not going to various calamities. So this was completely shocking for him and he's released this information. So these are, what I'm trying to say is, the reason why I gave Shailesh Gandhi's example is that earlier all of us used to feel so helpless. All of us are very disturbed by the kind of governance that we have in a country. All of us want to do something about it, but we used to feel very helpless. What can I do about it? I am alone. And maybe someday some revolution will come. But now the ball is in your court. Right to information gives so much of power to individual people. Like Shailesh has made a promise to himself that he will spend 1 hour every day on right to information. I think all of you should also use right to information. Learn how to use right to information. It's very simple. Right to Information Act is available on the net. Download this law. It's a very simple law. Start using right to information, and once you start getting results, you get addicted to it. That much I can assure you. So these are some of the experiences that I wanted to share with you, and basically right to information is a journey for ethical governance in this country. Because it's not just about asking information from the government. When you ask information from the government servants also turn around and say that who are you? Where is your money coming from? What are you doing about it? So it's about truth coming out in public domain from both the sides. If I am asking for information, I have done something wrong, I will not have the guts to ask for information. For instance, if you have done something wrong with municipal corporation, you will not have the guts to ask for information because they will retaliate. If you are finding faults with them, they will also find faults with you. So you also need to be strong morally and legally to be able to file right to information application. So I think it's an interesting journey that has started in this country, which should have started long back, and it's a journey for ethical governance in this country. Thank you. Today I am joined by my colleague Swati Maliwal. She is a computer engineer. After 2 years back, after completing her computer engineering, she decided not to join any job, but she joined the social sector. I would request her to share some of her experiences.
Hi. Firstly, I would like to state that my journey with RTI began with an equally inspiring speech from Arvind 2 years back. And the first RTI that I had filed was on this road. I had got together with a few friends of mine at IIT, and we decided to start filing RTI applications on roads. And I was amazed to see that within 5 days of my filing that RTI application, the road actually started getting constructed. And it was something around 12 crores. So that was a huge motivation, because for 6 months I was groping around, moving from one NGO to the other NGO, trying to do something, trying to find one cause that would really motivate me, or one issue that would really excite me, and also trying to find a way to bring about some sort of a change, because just operating on a sentimental level did not really appeal to me. So Arvind introduced me to Right to Information, and my journey with Parivartan began then. And it was very exciting that one would go to the roads and one would just stand there, and then you would have these huge rollers moving around, and you would go and ask the driver, "Bhaiya, kya ho gaya? Kaise road banne lagi? Itne din se to ban nahi rahi thi." And this man would come up and say, "Arey pata nahi, hame to pata nahi, abhi ye kal order aaya hai, bas mujhe itna pata hai ki 1 mahina mein pura road ban jana chahiye." So it was very motivating. I would like to share some of my experiences with some government hospitals right now, which I'm working on. Basically, I was working in a slum, and there was this woman, and she was very ill. So I decided to take her to one of the government hospitals in East Delhi. And the condition that I came across was so pathetic that it almost moved me to tears, and it was really bad because there were no medicines available, there was absolute apathy, no tests were being done inside the hospital. And the first question that came into my mind was, are we legally entitled to all this in a government hospital? Because no such information was available anywhere. That can anybody go to a government hospital and just get everything free of cost? So I filed a few RTI applications, and I actually got it on paper that everybody, whether you are an above poverty line person or whether you are a below poverty line person, you are entitled to free medical services in a government hospital, which was very empowering. Because I later remember that I talked to some very senior CAG official, and he also did not know this information. So that's how the journey began, and we realized that there are no medicines being provided, there are no tests that are being conducted inside the hospital. So we tried to understand what the systems are like in the hospital. So we filed several RTI applications asking for inspections of how the medicines are procured, and who decides when the medicines are going to be procured, and how much buffer stock has to be maintained, when are the supply orders given, how are the supply orders given. So this was like huge amount of information which we started inspecting. We actually went there and inspected the records. So this entire process threw up many very stark results. For example, we tried to trail the availability of few medicines in the hospital, and it was so shocking to understand that morphine was actually not available in the hospital for 2 months. Life-saving drugs like dopamine was not available in the hospital for 1 month, and the drugstore in charge himself has the audacity to say, "Acha, ye to available hi nahi hai, isse to log mar gaye honge bahut sare." So that is the way the systems were working. So two very important things that came out of this inspection was that there was extreme unaccountability. That whether the drugs are there in the hospital or the drugs are not there in the hospital, whether the surgical consumables are there in the hospital or they are not there in the hospital, nobody bothers. And if 10 patients are dying because of lack of it, nobody is held accountable. That no one's head is going to be chopped off, or no one is going to be thrown out of the hospital if something that severe also happens. Also, what came out of the hospital, out of this entire process was that there is an absolute lack of information flow in the hospital. No one even knows what is their duty. For example, I'll give you an example. One drug called injection tramadol was not available in the hospital for a long time, and the doctors were writing them on a scrap of paper and telling the patients to buy it from outside. And this hospital which I was inspecting is a completely poor person's hospital. You have people below poverty line going there, and they are forced to buy medicines from outside, which is quite tragic. So this particular drug, we tried to investigate, and we found out that the sister doesn't know that she has to actually indent it to the drugstore. The drugstore doesn't know that it actually has to send it to the purchase department. There's a complete lack of information within the system as to who is supposed to do what, and simple information like what drugs are being procured in the hospital is not available to the doctors. So this is also one of my requests to everybody in Google. If you could collaborate, and if you could develop an information system, a software which could actually make all this, instead of being manual, if it could all be online, and if you could have these systems where, like in the railway, in the railway station, you have it there with which train is coming, which train is available, which is not coming. So if we could have just a list of the drugs as to which are available, which are out of stock, which are not there, so it would be, I think it would go a long way. And another level at which RTI started functioning, because I remember the first time when I went to the hospital, like I said, I was almost in a state of tears and I did not know what to do. But then slowly and gradually, as I started learning how to use the right information, so what happened was that now when I go And when we have individual patients, like somebody being forced to buy medicines from outside, you can actually file the right to information applications. You can help them to file right to information applications, and the moment that happens, the ball gets rolling, and everybody from the top authority down to the bottom knows that this is happening, and the medicines, they just come from somewhere. Like last week, there was this woman, she was very critically ill, and her operation was actually being stalled because she was asked to purchase medicines from outside. And we filed a right to information application under the Life and Liberty Clause. That is that you have to provide information within 48 hours of filing the application. And her operation was done free of cost with all the medicines being procured from inside the hospital. So that is the power of RTI at individual level also, and also at understanding systems. Because till the time you cannot understand systems, you will not be able to bring about a systemic change. And I would like to end by saying that RTI is clearly redefining the relationship between the governing authorities and the people who are being governed. This sort of a change, this sort of a power, this sort of just that feeling of getting into the hospital and knowing what to do, and asking the authorities to be accountable and doing the right thing is something which was not available to us. And also I would like to urge everybody here to start using right to information, because it's no longer that we can keep cribbing and we can keep saying, oh, ye wala politician kharab hai, ye wala bureaucrat kharab hai, and we can't keep on going according to our saas bahu serial watching parents and grandparents who keep spreading and reiterating that cynicism, that kuch nahi badal sakta, ye to desh ka bura haal ho chuka hai, and blah blah blah. I really think that now the power is in our hands, and I really think that you should all start filing out the applications and just see how it brings about change.
I just want to add the reason why one of the reasons, of course, is that the poor people were not getting medicines in this hospital. Also, the reason why we got also into doing the audit of this hospital. First, see the power of right to information. Now, ordinary people like us can go and do audits of government hospitals. Otherwise, audit was supposed to be done by CAG, Controller and Auditor General of India. But now we are doing the audit. And they have to show us all the records. Why we got into this audit was because the Principal Health Secretary of Delhi government, who is known to us, he called us for a meeting. He was having a meeting with senior doctors in Delhi. And in that meeting, he said that there is no cash crunch with Delhi government. Any amount of money is available in Delhi for the health sector. So any hospital wants any amount of money, please tell me, we will give you the money. And in that meeting, when he asked, the medical superintendent of this hospital said, there is no dearth of medicines in my hospital. There is any amount of medicines available, but those medicines are not reaching the patients. So where are these medicines going? And that is the reason we started filing these RT applications, to understand where those medicines were going, whether those were being purchased, if they were being purchased, whether they were being siphoned off, etc., etc. So as she said, that one of the things that we were discussing with a couple of people just at 3 o'clock in a meeting was, if Google could get into developing some kind of a software for managing information in this particular hospital, it could act as a pilot project. And I can tell you that the Principal Health Secretary of Delhi government is a very nice man, very positive man. And if we give this idea to him, I'm sure that he would agree to that. If one such pilot project could be done, I think this could then be replicated in many other hospitals. And information is power, as everyone knows. Once that information is out in public domain, it will be, and through computers, the responsibility could be tracked and it could be fixed as to is it the purchase department, or is it the drugstore, or which officer is responsible for non-availability of the drugs in the hospital. So this is it.